So part of what I've discovered, we went intentionally to tackle the poverty in the area, but as a byproduct, I got to understand how challenging the whole conservation story is, and how we're destroying our environment and our wildlife. But this was the main reason we went. Our people used to live in those kinds of huts. Today, living in these types of houses. Coming from a biotech pharmaceutical background, I've got a strong interest obviously in healthcare. But healthcare is very difficult to measure. But healthcare is very correlated to housing. If you improve housing, health improves. So our measurement is on housing. So we kind of surrogate market. And for us, we talk about standard housing. Standard housing is concrete floor, concrete walls, water, electricity, indoor bathroom, flush toilet, solar panel. Over time, with our investment, we want to know what percentage of people start to have standard housing. Because when they have standard housing, we know their health will improve. Right? So that's really an important thing for us. And we haven't had time to talk through this, but we measure a bunch of different metrics. So apart from our profit and loss and balance sheets on a quarterly basis, we want to know, is our investment making any change to our community? Is it really helping? So one of the things we measure is male-female. We measure average salary per month, excluding managers, because they distort. So we want to know, at the bottom, our lowest pay, is that rising year on year? Because if it isn't, we're just doing good. We're not really doing real transformation. And then, as you can see, we also measure the amount of income tax that's paid. Is that increasing? Because if we're not increasing the tax base, we're just do-gooders. We're not really helping the government of that country to make fundamental changes. Then we measure the number of people in standard housing over time. We also measure the number of kids who go to tertiary education. Because we want to know, can we really help people to change their fiscal discipline? Now, us men are the worst, right? We're the most irresponsible. Because when we pay salaries to these men, before they get home, half of it gets spent. Alcohol, gambling, whatever. Right? Women, this is what, microfinance only works with women. It doesn't work with men. Right? Because the men are useless at managing money. They just spend it. The women are more responsible. That's why microfinance will only work with women. So, but we want to help the men to change their thinking. Okay? So initially in the first few years, we imposed some kind of savings program for all our people. And that helps them so that they can send their children to tertiary education. Primary is taken, we take that for granted. Secondary, we take that for granted. But tertiary education, for parents to want to invest in their children's tertiary education is still a challenge for us. To invest in their daughter's education is an even bigger challenge. But we have to drive that. We have to keep pushing that. And then through the savings, we help them to start to own vehicles, and a few of them starting to own their own houses. And the reason for doing that is this. Firstly, it's very expensive living in the informal sector. You know, you and I are part of a formal economy. We go to our banks, we can borrow at sensible rates. But if you live in an informal sector, it is hugely expensive. Everything just costs more. The poor will always remain poor if they remain in the informal sector. We have to help them transition into the formal economy. When they start owning vehicles and start owning houses, they become a part of the formal economy. They have an address, right? They're starting to pay taxes of some sort. And more importantly, they start having a collateral, because when they go to the bank and say, I want to borrow for my daughter's education, first question they ask is, do you have any collateral? I've got a car, I've got a house, right? I have a collateral. Do you have any credit history? Yeah, I've been in this job for the past 3 years, so this is my monthly. They don't need any more help. They are now part of the formal economy. If we are serious, if they're serious about helping the poor, then my view is that we need to help them start to own some assets, start to become a part of the formal economy. Otherwise, it just gets too expensive. There's something else that I learned. Role models. One of the things we find in many parts of Africa is simply this sense of hopelessness. You know, when you have had generations of unemployment, you know, there's a sense of hopelessness. You can come to some of our towns where 80% of the adults are unemployed. They sit around, they wait for the pensions checks for their grandparents or their parents to come through. They're into drugs, they're into alcohol. It's a real sense of just hopelessness. And one of the ways to lift them is by giving them role models. This is Jake's hard work. Jake's rose to be Nelson Mandela's chief of staff when Mandela was president. Looked after Mandela's affairs when Mandela was in jail. Headed up the Mandela Rhodes Foundation, Mandela's Children's Foundation. But you know what? Jake's parents grew up on a farm next door to us. Still buried there. Their graves are there. So when Jake's retired and bought a house back in our district, I went straight for Jake's. I said, Jake, you gotta come and help me to inspire our young people. Because if someone like you, from here, can rise to high office, there's hope for all our kids. The place of role model is just so important to give people, especially our young people, a sense of hope. You know, so whenever we get into investments, we also think about who can be the role models to come and inspire children. Let me skip some of this stuff because it's, we can spend all day talking. We have a foundation there. I fenced up about 1,500 acres to put non-dangerous animals on because I discovered very early on most of our African kids have never seen wild animals in the wild. Only in books, television, they've never experienced and seen game in the wild. And my view is, if conservation is going to have a chance, we've got to get our young people excited about their heritage. And so we've put up a fence around 1,500 acres, put non-dangerous animals on, and we bus in children from the townships for a day. They can come and walk with zebras, walk with giraffes, walk with wildebeest, and have our young people who have themselves been aged orphans and so on, spend a day with them, encourage them to say, there is a way out of poverty, but it requires hard work, it requires education. Right? And this is, I don't fund this, I don't want to fund charity, this is being funded by guests. So when the guests come, they have a good experience at a game park, they have an opportunity to make a donation, and out of that donation, we bust in these kids. So it's a way for the guests to engage, to say, don't just come for a wonderful experience. Come and join us to help our transformation. So our kids are busted through the foundation. This is a chain of low-cost schools in Kenya. It's the largest chain of low-cost schools. So here's the other challenge. Can you design a business that can tackle this huge problem that we have of education in the slums? Okay? Without using charity. So here is a kind of school in the box where parents pay about $5 to $6 per child per month. So it's not free. $5 to $6 per child per month. They use M-Pesa. You're all familiar with M-Pesa, right? And we use technology to reduce the cost. So when you use M-Pesa, everything is instant. So you don't need huge back offices. And this is one of the reasons, a very simple reason why the private schools in the slums do better than government schools. Is because we pay teachers on time. Right? Same problem that we have in Uganda, because of all these bureaucracy and so on, teachers never know when they get paid. And so teacher absenteeism runs at around 35% in Kenya. So it's about that. It's roughly about 30% in Uganda as well from the last figures I saw. Because governments don't pay them on time, they have to have second jobs outside. So our teachers are demotivated, or they're absent. They're not teaching. Right? So that contributes to all the problems that we have with basic education. So here's a model where parents pay. We use technology. We use Look. We use the Look tablet. So the curriculum is scripted. We started with one school in 2008. Today we have 450 schools all over Kenya. We have 30 schools in Uganda. And we have 125,000 kids now in our schools. We're building 2 schools every week. We employ 5,000 people now. We train 1,000 teachers at any one time. We test our kids once every 2 weeks. We have an educational team sitting in Boston who do the analytics. We know exactly what stage each child is at, and those who are falling behind gets extra tuition so that they catch up. And this year is our first year where we've set the national exam, the Kenyan national exam. And we've performed better than the government schools. And what we're discovering is this. When something is free, parents haven't taken as much interest. And they feel that they don't have the rights to ask too many questions. It's free. It's not. But now they're having to pay. They are standing outside the school gate and they're challenging the teacher. Why isn't my daughter doing better? It's not an investment. You know, there's something about psychology, right? With government schools, it's just like our government hospitals. You don't feel that you can be too demanding. But if you're paying for it, you can be a lot more demanding. And we need parents to be more demanding. So say, why isn't my child doing better? And parents are taking more interest in their kids' education. We will have over 30 schools in Uganda by the end of the year. And we will be projecting to have 300-400 schools in Uganda over the next 2 years. And we can come back and talk about this further because there are some other models that could also be very interesting here. But this is a really interesting model where everything is scripted. The head teacher has a smartphone. He knows exactly who's paid, who isn't paid. He pays teachers from his smartphone. He has a record of all the grades of the test results of every child. He can tracks everything. The head teacher. So that's education. Toilets. We have 2 toilet business, 2 different models. This is in Kenya, in Kibera and Mukuru. So here we have one of these ladies who are franchisors. They franchise to have a toilet. And you know what those toilets are like in the slums, right? You've seen those. And we're still in Kampala, in some of our slums. They have the pit latrines with loose bricks, so that when the rains come, they remove the bricks, and that's how the waste is exhausted, right? And all that waste stays in our slums. You know, look, I come from the pharmaceutical industry. Nothing pleases us more than to sell more drugs, more vaccines, more intervention. But you know, no matter how much we put in, if we don't improve the environment, no amount of medical intervention will make any difference. The West's thinking is always, let's go for a quick fix. Let's vaccinate, let's give drugs, let's do this, let's do that. But TB is a disease of poverty and overcrowding.